And we should now be live. Good evening, everybody. Just going to check everything's okay on OBS. Looks to be, and everything's good on YouTube. Excellent. Oh, good evening, everyone. How is everybody's Sunday evening going? I'm just going to let people drift in, because I know that Evo is probably still just finishing up her stream, so I have a feeling people are probably a bit busy. I'm okay, Jacksonzilla. My weekend is okay. I am still, however, partly recovering from root canal surgery that I had on Tuesday. It's a lot better than it was at the beginning of the week, but my face is still a bit swollen. So, yeah. And you used to watch Thomas too when you were a kid, Nicholas. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. But yeah, today's stream is going to be a little bit different because there's going to be a lot of building. I do want to show a little bit. So I did quite a bit of work on the park off screen. The science area has been completely built, as you can see. The castle is well on its way to being constructed. And I didn't quite like my first design for the open grassland area, so I redesigned it a little bit, put another water feature in, just spent a bit more time decorating it, basically. So, yeah, I can do a quick tour while we're waiting for people to drop by Jacksonzilla. So, this is basically the entrance area. Everything along this central avenue. This exhibit here is technically for the wild Yehalopterus, although the wild Yehalopterus have kind of started roaming a little further away than anticipated, but all their insect feeders are around here, so they always drift back eventually. But you have the singular hotel on the island, or at least the first major hotel on the island, up here, overlooking the Yehalopterus area and seating zone, one of the main amenity blocks. So that's sort of the central avenue of entrance area. Have a garden down here with our John Hammond statue. These two exhibits at the end. One is for the compies, which are so small, and the other is for oviraptors. And the whole point of this park is that it's only specifically for the smaller members of the species in the game. So that's why you're going to see nothing too big. This exhibit, we've got Hwangosaurus in a variety of different color combinations. And in here, with this sort of more decorative, almost Jurassic Park-esque designed area, we've got Monolophosaurus. This leads to the free roam enclosure, so there's lots of dinosaurs in here that are free roaming, with some Sungaripterus as well. But as you can see, they're all a little bit stuck at this end of the paddock at the moment, so I need to try and convince them to move a bit. We've got the science compound here. This is then going to open up into a castle back here. And then on the other side, we have a crazy golf course, or mini golf course here, along this this row of the path. Opposite the Pachyrhinosaurus and Matabarosaurus enclosure, which you can look in through these lovely glass walls, which really help to give a good view. And if you then follow the path through the forest, you then rise up to this raised ridgeline, which overlooks the grassland enclosure. Here we have Amargasaurus and Chasmosaurus. And ending in another amenities area opposite the Metriacanthosaurus swamp enclosure, which sort of stretches around the backside of this artificial mountain. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to do, and in fact today I'm going to be doing the building work for the lagoon area and the campsite for this particular park. But because I know there's going to be a lot of building in this particular stream and probably a lot of quite annoying finagling trying to get everything to work, I thought we'd also do a bit of a live Q&A while I was doing all of this. So this is your opportunity to sort of get to know me better and ask, you know, my thoughts on things, whether it's gaming or movies or, you know, it doesn't have to be dinosaur related, but obviously if you want to ask dinosaur related things you can, but you know, freedom of choice to talk to me about anything that you might want to get my views on. In terms of what mods I'm using, Jacksonzilla, giving you a full mod list would be a very long process. Suffice it to say, I have an awful lot of mods running, and actually at the end of today's stream I'm going to show you guys one of my newer park builds that I'm building completely off stream, making full use of as many mods as I can, so stay tuned for that. Have you seen Godzilla -1? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? So no, I haven't seen Godzilla -1. I'm not really much of a Godzilla fan. When I was a kid, I did used to... I really liked the Matthew Broderick film, the 1998 film, which I know most people do not consider a Godzilla film, and they've called her Zilla. I really did like that movie, though, when I was a kid. I personally think that it gets way too much hate that it doesn't deserve. It's not good, definitely. It's not a good movie, but I think it gets too much hate. But when it comes to actual Godzilla, and I suppose kind of monster, what I consider like traditional monster movies in general, I'm not really a massive fan of them. Like I didn't really think very much of Pacific Rim. I thought Pacific Rim was dreadful, to be honest. And I'm just trying to think. King Kong, again, like I'm not really a... I think King Kong is a very boring monster, actually. He's just a big gorilla. I don't think that's very imaginative as monsters go. So yeah, I'm not really much of a monster movie fan. I don't really consider Jurassic Park a monster movie. Well, certainly not the originals. I certainly think the newer Jurassic World films, you could definitely argue, are more monster movie than anything else. What is your favorite dino in the game? That would probably go... See, it's a difficult one. I'd probably go with a Margosaurus still. I think out of all of the species that Jurassic World Evolution 2 added, I think a Margosaurus is one of the better ones. And I kind of feel it's one of the areas that Jurassic World Evolution 2 did not do very well, is that we didn't actually get that many kind of new creatures in the base game that were not part... If you ignore the pterosaurs and ignore the marine animals, when it came to new ground species, we didn't get that many. I certainly feel there's some animals that have been put in DLCs that I think should have been there from the beginning, but that's a video for when Jurassic World Evolution 2 finishes development. But yeah, Amargosaurus I think is probably my favourite animal in the game. Or dinosaur in the game, I should be specific, shouldn't I? Because if I was going off my favourite animal, then it's probably going to be... Liplorodon in that case. Well, maybe Kronosaurus. Kronosaurus or Liplorodon would be my favourite animal, not specifically a dinosaur in the game. And I actually think the Liplorodon gets an unfair, gets a lot of unfair negativity from this game. In fact, so much so that I'm tempted to do a video on it, because I think when it comes to Liplorodon in this game, I think you can defend its design in some respects. So yeah, that could be a video I make. I'm not quite 100% sure I want this. I don't know how to do the paving around this lagoon. Instead of starting with the lagoon, let's do the path first. Let's figure out the path. What do you think ruined the Jurassic World movies, in your opinion? Do you want a list? How many reasons am I? How many things am I allowed to point out, Goofy Goof? A list. You'd like a list? Okay. Fundamentally, I think the biggest problem with the Jurassic World films is they have failed to grasp the fact that the dinosaurs are not the bad guys of the movie. If you go into Jurassic Park and you see the dinosaurs as the evil of the film, then you have completely not gotten the message, and you need to go back and rewatch them. The dinosaurs are not the bad guys of the movie. And fundamentally, one of the problems with all of the Jurassic World films that we have had, well, arguably at least Fallen Kingdom and Jurassic World, is that they are wanting to present the hybrids and the dinosaurs as sort of inherently evil. Like, you can label them evil by design, which I think is completely wrong, and it's what turns the movie from being interesting to it just being a monster film. The Jurassic World movies fail, in my opinion, because they're just monster movies, no different to Godzilla or Pacific Rim or King Kong. And I would argue that Godzilla and Pacific Rim and King Kong do the monster movie thing better than Jurassic World ever has. I also think that the Jurassic World movies are too much action and visual spectacle over substance, like a lot of movies nowadays, though I don't just blame Jurassic World for that. I think a lot of movies these days are spectacle over substance. I don't think the cast is particularly strong, and I absolutely despise the fact that they've tried to turn the Velociraptors, especially Blue, into a puppy. Now, the Velociraptors were one of the most scary, most brilliant parts of the original film. The original movie made Velociraptor a household name, and they have been twisted in the Jurassic World films into pets that Mr. Owen Grady can treat like pets. Oh, and incidentally, just talking about the cast, I don't think Owen Grady is a good character as a whole. I know why Mr. Chris Pratt is there, because of fucking Star-Lord, and he's a fucking approachable name that people are going to recognize. Stay out of my dinosaur movies, Mr. Chris Pratt. I don't want you there. I didn't think much of his particular character anyway, and I despise the fact that in Jurassic World Dominion, no one at any point, especially Alan Grant, who has survived raptor attacks not once, but twice. I despise the fact that Alan Grant doesn't at any point say to Owen Grady that what he was doing was stupid or dangerous. Because of all of the people in the Jurassic franchise, Alan Grant should be the one to sort of criticize what Owen was doing. Because even the whole idea of training raptors, I mean, for heaven's sake, what did you think they were going to be used for, Owen? Sorry, you've got me started on a bit of a rant there, Goofy. But if that's sort of my principal sort of main problems with it, Goofy. I think I could go on for a very long time, and I know other people are asking questions. So, by the way, if you are asking questions, I'm going to keep like flicking back through, but if I do miss someone, please do repeat it. Nicholas asked, do you think we need more animals outside of the Cretaceous period? In Jurassic World Evolution 2, definitely. No argument there. Barger, Fletcher, if you could change one thing in history, what would it be? Wow. If I could change one thing in history. I mean, being a Star Trek fan, something all Star Trek fans know is you don't mess around with history, because that's just asking for trouble. But if I was hard-pressed to, you know, come up with something that I would absolutely 100% change, it would probably be 9/11, and I'll explain my reasoning as to that. It's not because people died. That's not principally my motivation for making sure 9/11 didn't happen. My motivation for making sure 9/11 didn't happen is because the fundamental damage it has done to our society, to people, ever since, you know, the massive rise of Islamophobia, the fact that nobody can handle a culture or an opinion different to their own anymore, the fact that wherever you go now it's persistent warnings about keep on the lookout for terrorists and all this mumbo jumbo. It just feels like, I don't know, I remember when I was a kid, when you were waiting at a train station, you wouldn't have persistent warnings telling you to look out for people's bags, or if you see someone looking remotely suspicious to report them. I feel like 9/11 made humanity, not everyone, but a lot of people, kind of a bit like the Gestapo, and it also led to the rise of people like Trump and his ilk, the people who want to label anyone as different to themselves as you know, a negative on society. So yeah, but at the same time you could argue that's always been there. But if I was hard pressed to pick an event, it would be that one. Joshua says, I think Liprodon in general gets a weird reputation, largely in part due to its oversized version walking with dinosaurs. Yeah, true. Colin Trevorrow in his shit writing, exactly, definitely. Hello Atifa, if I've said that name correctly. Fletcher, if you could choose any period to make the next few packs around, what period or era would it be? Triassic. Definitely to Triassic period. I think the Triassic period is an incredibly underrepresented period, not just in this game, but in dinosaur media as a whole. The Triassic period gets barely any look in. You know, even Walking with Dinosaurs, you only got one episode devoted to the Triassic. And in some respects, it is the most important period because it's the period where dinosaurs evolved. How can you talk about dinosaurs in any way without going quite a lot into how they evolved at that time? And the Triassic also has so many other interesting things in it. You've got so many other interesting animal groups like the archosaurs, like Postosuchus. You've got the synapsids and other mammal-like reptiles like the Placerius and Lystrosaurus, and basically they're on their last evolutionary legs. You know, they went extinct after that time period. You've got the rise of the big marine reptile groups like the ichthyosaurs, but also other more interesting stuff like the nothosaurs. There are so many interesting Triassic period animals. I think it's a real shame that the Triassic period doesn't get more of a look in when it comes to dinosaur media. I have a hint that Triclaw doesn't like Chris Pratt. No, Fletcher does not like Chris Pratt. He should stay in his Marvel films. He's good in his Marvel films. I will say that. Chris Pratt, I like him in the Marvel movies he's in. I just don't like him in Jurassic World. Thank you, Green Eagle. We need a stream of Triclaw just ranting about everything. Well, that might be when me and Nerd Guy Productions do our live Jurassic World Dominion retrospective review, which I need to talk to him about getting that organized, but he's starting a new job, so I'm kind of waiting to find out what his work schedule is going to be, and then we can organize that. I'm hoping it's going to be before Christmas, though, so watch this space. Yeah, exactly, Joshua. That would be my opinion on 9/11. Fletcher, I just realized something. It is very similar to the Red Scare. And modern Islamophobia is very similar to the Red Scare. Another horrible part of human history. Do you hate Chris Pratt being Mario and Garfield? I didn't think he was very good as Mario, if I'm honest. Like, Mario is supposed to be an Italian plumber, not a fat American. Just my thoughts. Oh, there's Nerd Guy Productions. Speak of the devil. Who would you recast as Owen Grady if you could? Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, I don't think I would. I think that's one of the fundamental problems with Jurassic World is I don't think I would have an Owen Grady character in it. Because Owen Grady in Jurassic World, to me, was just a replacement for Alan Grant. So I don't think I would even have Owen Grady in my movie. I would probably have given his sort of roles to somebody else. Oh, don't go posting loads of emojis in chat, please. It's not welcome at Evo's streams, and it's not welcome on mine. Okay, quick question for chat before I do any more question and answer. I do want to have a zip line here. Now, this little sprig of land here seems perfect for me for a zip line, and I was going to do like a statue park sort of thing that it would go over, or do we have the zip line going over the lagoon? Because the lagoon is only going to have ichthyosaurs in it, so you're not really going to see anything from above. So statue park or a zip line over the lagoon, across the ocean. So what, have it from this little spit to this one, like go across this little like bit of land here? Barger says yes. In that case, I might make this bit... Well, actually, I suppose I could just keep... Okay, let's place it... I mean, what I can do is have this as actually part of a statue park itself. So you sort of walk into it and there's lots of statues, and then the zip line is like there to sort of... Sort of there. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, we'll go with that. Have the mosasaur statue rotated so to look like it's jumping at the zipline. That's certainly something I could try and pull off. Remind me of that if I get round to it, Barger. In the meantime, let's go back to answering questions. Fletcher, what was your opinion on the Netflix Cleopatra documentary? Okay, so I didn't see it personally, but I did I did keep an eye on all of the, shall we say, conversation about it. As a historian, all I'm going to say is this. If you're going to make a history documentary, you have a responsibility, if you're going to call it a documentary, to present the history of whatever you're looking at as accurately as possible. To not do so is paramount to trying to lie or deceive the audience. So, twisting Cleopatra's heritage in terms of her skin color to something it wasn't in order to make some sort of political argument is not only irreprehensible in terms of just why are you doing this, but it's also, I think, dangerous for the history. We have too many people willing to pervert the truth of events already without academics or apparent academics doing the same thing. And that was why I really didn't like the Stephen Fry, dinosaur with Stephen Fry. Because they were presenting inaccurate paleontology as truth. And that's how you end up with people believing stuff that isn't true. And fake history being believed. So, yeah. Cleopatra is one example of that, I think. How would you rewrite Owen Grady's character to make him more suited to the movie without completely changing him? So firstly, I would try to not make him like Alan Grant at all. And I remove any macho man attitude about him. I think that was like the biggest thing I didn't like about him was this macho man persona they gave him. Make him more of an everyday individual. Maybe have him as someone who is still training the raptors, but maybe it not be the raptors, but maybe he's training something else. Maybe he's training a different species for some sort of emergency response purpose. And then have him be someone who like learns the truth of the situation. I mean, I don't know. It would have to be something I spend a lot of time thinking about, because I think there's a lot of problems with Owen Grady's character as a whole. But I just think I would get rid of that macho man-esque sort of position that they gave him. Fletcher, if you could, would you bring back the Roman Empire? No. The Roman Empire was a horrible thing. Civilized, but also very barbaric. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? I mean, I'm British. Britain, the Roman Empire left a lot of long-standing historical implications on Britain, so you can't kind of think about Britain as a country without thinking about the Roman Empire. But I wouldn't say I think a lot about it. I'm just aware there's a lot of Roman history in this country. In fact, the area where I'm living in the UK now, we have a lot of Roman villas, or what were Roman villas. So there's lots of sort of mosaics and stuff being dug up all of the time around here. Which Jurassic Park moment do you think is the dumbest? Nicholas, does it have to be Jurassic Park, or can it be Jurassic World as well? Because I do ultimately think there's more dumb moments in Jurassic World than there is Jurassic Park. Oh, let's not get started on the British Empire or Ireland, shall we? That's a completely different kettle of fish. Pick one for each trilogy. That works. Okay, so the dumbest moment in the original trilogy of films. I think for me the dumbest moment is Alan Grant agreeing to Paul Kirby when Paul Kirby is telling Alan Grant all this stuff about how they're worth so much money and how they've been to Everest and stuff, climbed Kilimanjaro and things. And Alan Grant is like, oh, nothing on God's earth can get me back on that island. And then, Paul Kirby offers him some money and that gets him to go. And I'm like, dude, you didn't even like check out this Paul Kirby. You didn't do any background checks. You didn't even wait for his check to clear. You just decided to go. Like, how thick are you? Alan Grant is quite funny in that regards. He demonstrates a complete lack of personal safety if you offer him money. He's got no morals. It's just, oh, you're offering me money. I will go and do what you like. I'll go along with any crazy idea you have as long as you offer me some cash. And I'm not going to even bother to wait for the check to clear before I go and have a part in this. For the Jurassic World trilogy, my god, there are so many dumb moments. Okay, fundamentally, the biggest dumb moment of the movie for me, of the Jurassic World movies, and it's actually it's part of the script, is Claire Dearing going, nobody is interested in seeing a dinosaur anymore. How fucking stupid are you? It makes absolutely no sense. If what Claire Dearing said was true, people wouldn't go to zoos more than once, but they do. People love to go and see things they've seen before. Just because they've seen a dinosaur doesn't mean you have to grow your own hybrid now. And I know that Nerd Guy in the retrospective we did was like, oh, this is probably just, this corporate sort of mindset that they're in. But I still to this day consider it a really stupid element from those movies to just outrightly say that people aren't interested in coming to see a dinosaur, so we're going to breed a hybrid. It's like, if people weren't interested in your dinosaurs you had, why not just bring a new species of actual dinosaur into the park? Why did you have to invent a hybrid? It's just such a dumb, stupid idea to have. Fletcher, if you could bring back any empire aside from the British, what would it be? None, because I don't think any empire is a good idea, Barger. What's the best moment from each of the Jurassic World movies? When they end, Goofy Goof. No, okay, I'll be serious. I will legitimately try to think of a good moment. I mean, okay, in the first Jurassic World, seeing the park actually open and working and running, that's a pretty triumphal moment. I think everyone who saw the original Jurassic Park, we all kind of wanted the park to succeed. And seeing it actually open and running, there was something kind of cool and satisfying about that, for a fan of the franchise at least. So we'll go with seeing the park open in the first one. In the second one, Fallen Kingdom is so difficult, dude, because it's such a terrible film. I would actually say the best part of Fallen Kingdom is those first few minutes with the submarine and how atmospheric it actually felt like Jurassic Park films of old, where it was really atmospheric and tense, and I loved that. And then, you know, it was wiped away as quickly as possible for a chase scene, but those first few minutes at the beginning of Fallen Kingdom actually were really good, I think, and it's a shame that not more of the movie was actually like that. When it comes to Dominion, you want a good moment from Dominion? Yeah, when it ended. For me, legitimately, when Dominion ended, I was so glad to get out of that cinema. I fucking hated Dominion. They see a Stegosaurus as an elephant now. That made me so sad. Yeah, I mean, I still get overwhelmed when I see an elephant. I still think they're some of the coolest animals around. I loved when me and Dane went to Colchester Zoo a few months ago. I loved taking photos of all of the animals and watching the elephants. So yeah, people do not look at a Stegosaurus like an elephant. Corporations might look at a Stegosaurus like an elephant, but people do not. Concavenator should have been the Indoraptor. Oh, the Indoraptor is a very dumb animal as well. Fully operational park, yep. This is turning into SCP territory. I like the idea of the SCP website, but I do have strong opinions on how they operate it. Fletcher, what was your opinion on the Indominus Rex's design? Because I thought it was awful, and if you could change the design, how would you change it? Okay, well, I can tell you how I would change the design very easily. I would make it the Giganotosaurus. And my thoughts on the Indominus Rex itself... I think it's a very boring and bland design, because it's too much of it is taken from a Tyrannosaurus. It looks too much like a Tyrannosaurus. It doesn't really look that different. I think if they had made it less like a Tyrannosaurus, it would have looked better. And I actually think the white color scheme they gave it is so boring. I know it was kind of going for the whole ghost sort of appearance, but it's dull. It's boring. I would have vastly preferred some of the like the concept images where it has like this yellow and purple coloration, or it looks really kind of raggedy and really kind of scary looking. I would have vastly preferred that to what we got in the actual movie, which was quite a dull Tyrannosaurus mutant, basically. Because it just wasn't fun or interesting in any way. Obviously, these are all just my opinions. You're free to disagree if you wish, but that is my opinion. That the Indo was just a very bland and boring design, and the color scheme just did not help with that. I'm not sure how to do the amenities for this area. I think we will just have them down here. And I think back here we will just do environmental work down here. Oh wow, loads of people. Sorry, I am trying to keep up with the chat. Don't worry. You saw Beyonce on Friday, Joshua. Was it fun? What would you rather have as a pet, an elephant or a rhino? Probably an elephant. Rhinos are notoriously bad-tempered. Dominion should have been focused more on the dinosaurs. 100% agree, Atifa. Like, they say that the I-Rex had a Belosaur, Giganotosaurus, and Therizinosaurus, and all we got was an overgrown T-Rex with raptor arms. Exactly, Burger. That's my main problem with it. It was just a T-Rex with longer arms. What dinosaur would you bring back to the modern world, or would you bring back all dinosaurs back? That's a very interesting question of sort of what would you do if you were actually in charge of Jurassic Park. I mean, obviously the obvious answer would be, well, you just don't bring back the you don't bring back the carnivores, you bring back the herbivores only. Ignoring the ethics of cloning animals entirely, I think bringing back the herbivores for a park, I think is fine. You just don't bring back the carnivorous ones. Anyone who thought bringing back a T-Rex was going to end well, like, admittedly, you're going to make tons of money, but anyone who thought bringing back T-Rex was going to end well just needs to go and read up more about T-Rex. It was never going to end in anything other than absolute carnage.
I've just been holding on to this because I was waiting for like another reason for it to come up.
Cryolophosaurus is going to have a hard time in wild Antarctica. That is certainly true. Cryolophosaurus being one of the few animal species we know from Antarctica. Cryolophosaurus is going to become so confused. Yeah, where did this ice come from? Like, why is it so cold? Why can't I get to Australia anymore?
I love the way like readers like understand the system, just being like very confused about what's happening, and it's like not entirely sure. It's like here's the say it can be open from the inside if you can get past the glass.
Yeah, we'll go with that. And then let's do... Oh my god, I hate it when it does that. Am I the only one that thinks the path tool for Jurassic World Evolution 2 is worse than it ever was for Jurassic World Evolution 1? It's so much more annoying in this game. Okay, so we're going to have people all come off the bridge and then go this way. And then we're going to have the path to the campsite go off down here. No. I will get back to questions in a second, folks. Let me just deal with this frustrating path. Yeah, I'm okay with that, actually. I'm okay with that. Right, right, back to chat. Let's have a look. Fletcher, how would you feel if the plan to clone mammoths that has existed since 1999 actually worked and hairy elephants came back and roamed the wilds of Siberia, the Yukon, and a zoo? Personally, I would be worried for their safety, because the minute they would be released, poachers are just going to be all after them. Hunters are going to be all after them. So yeah, it would be a really sad set of circumstances, because I think it would bring out the worst elements of certain groups of humanity. What habitat would be in the real world best suited to release a T-Rex in? You are probably looking at something in the African savannas. You need a relatively warm climate. You need somewhere where there's relatively big game, because that's one of the things you have to think about with a T-Rex. You're talking about an animal that needs sort of 200, 300 kilos of food a day. And that's not easy to get anywhere without elephants and rhino and lots of relatively slower moving prey, because that's the other thing you have to think about. T-Rex is perfectly suited to hunting down, you know, hadrosaurs and ceratopsians, which are relatively slow moving prey. T-Rex is not going to be able to go and catch a gazelle, for example. So I think the savannas of Africa are probably the only place it could legitimately survive. I mean, the idea that one would survive in the wilds of America, I seriously doubt. You know, Rexy. But, yeah. Let's see. Would it be a good idea for a franchise like Jurassic Park to have a 2D animated style like that of a Western look, or possibly an anime? I would love to see an interpretation of Jurassic Park as an anime. There might actually be one thing I actually do, an anime I actually watch. I would be curious to see just how it would look. I mean, I'm not a massive anime fan, but it would certainly be a curiosity just to see what would be done with it. Where are those gates? I mean, Fletcher, I don't know about you, but I could see some rich poacher hiring some geneticist to clone a mammoth so he can hunt it. Yeah, I mean, again, without getting into shaming particular people, shall we just say that I don't particularly like how much hunting goes on in parts of the world? Or this perception that hunting is even a sport or an acceptable sort of thing to do. I think hunting is horrible and barbaric, and regardless of the excuse you give for it, Whether it's, oh, you know, we have to do it because we're keeping their numbers down, or we have to do it because otherwise they'd all starve to death, or blah blah blah. I think that's just a very flimsy excuse for what is going and shooting an animal because you can, basically. Fletcher, what would be the ethics of cloning Neanderthals and other extinct hominids? Oh, Barga, this is a... Barga, do you know how massive a topic that sort of thing is? The ethics behind cloning are a massive, very complicated discussion. Almost impossible to go over in a stream. There's no way I could do it justice in a stream. That's a sort of thing that you could do like a 12-hour video on and be no closer to an answer than when you started. Suffices to say, it is extraordinarily difficult ethically. There are so many problems it brings up, and so many legal problems as well. It's just it's a nightmare to even think about. Especially if you start, you know, cloning dinosaurs, ethically dodgy enough. Cloning Neanderthals, people with sentience. You know, Neanderthals were another type of humanoid. They were sentient enough to leave cave paintings and stuff behind. Cloning them, that's not too far off cloning humans, and cloning humans is a massive ethical kettle of fish. I mean, it's illegal. Cloning humans is illegal. It's been illegal for a very long time. For good reason. Ethics with Fletcher. Yeah, a very, very long, prolonged conversation. You know, the questions you ask me don't all have to be about prehistory and stuff. They can be about other subjects, you know. I do know other things other than just dinosaurs. Admittedly, I know this channel is kind of famous for dinosaurs, but I mean, it should be noted this channel is not actually a dinosaur channel. It is a gaming channel, and it just so happens to be that Jurassic World Evolution 2 is a game I tend to play quite often.
I'm sorry, Miles, but click.
Fletcher, hypothetically, let's say they do find evidence of Sasquatch that is real, what would your reaction be? I wouldn't be surprised. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do the bottom of our oceans. Do I think Sasquatch is real? I don't know. But would I be surprised if it turned out to be real? No. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow they actually discovered proof of the Loch Ness Monster, you know. We know so little about our own planet that anything could be out there. A giant gorilla man? Unlikely. But it's possible. Who knows? I think if it was discovered that he was they were real, there would be instant. There would have to be very quick, instantaneous action by environmental groups, because they would have to be protected very, very quickly. Because if they were real, the chances are it's probable that they're rare. Because if they weren't rare, there would be evidence of them already. So if actual evidence was discovered and everything, the chances are they are probably rare, probably under some sort of environmental decline. So they would need immediate protection by authorities to prevent people, again, hunting them or killing them illegally. So you think it's possible that an unidentified ape is living in the Pacific Northwest, but not likely? No, that's not what I said. I said that I think anything is possible. We know so little about the actual surface of our own planet that anything could be out there. But whether or not I think it's likely, I mean, I don't know. I sort of feel like an animal that big would have had definite evidence by now. Maybe there is definite evidence and the government is covering it up. Who knows? I actually don't like the fact I've switched tree types there. I'm gonna actually go back to the silver birches there. Actually, no. I'm gonna change this entirely. I'm gonna change this one. Say you could bring back a dinosaur, what dinosaur would you keep as a pet? Ignoring food costs and money issues.
It's just enough for surface at the end of the day.
I would say probably probably a theropod of some description. Maybe something like a Utahraptor, honestly. For a few reasons. Principally the most intelligent of the dinosaur species, so trainable. Carnivores don't need to eat as much as herbivores, so you're not going to spend a lot of money on food. When it comes to food themselves, they're going to be okay with pretty much any meat. So you're not having to worry about the herbivore getting poisoned by something random that it eats. And I mean, who's going to mess with you if you've got a pet Utahraptor? Only a fool would mess with someone who owns a pet Velociraptor. I mean, then again, Fletcher, how many hunters do you know of that would shoot at something shaped like a man? Well, I'm sure there's a joke to be found there about America somewhere, but let's not get to that, shall we? If space travel became a commercial venture similar to cruise ships, would you take a space tour? Without a doubt, Potato Man. You know, if someone offered me space on a colonization mission on the moon, without a doubt. It's that next frontier. Yeah, it's scary. The chances of success are incredibly minimal, but the you know, what if you succeed? Like that would be a huge thing. So yeah, definitely. And space commercialization, as much as I don't agree with the commercialization of space, because it's, you know, that's a thing for rich people. You know, if I was offered the opportunity to go, 100%. I mean, I'm a Star Trek fan. Going into space is as close to Star Trek as I would ever get. So, of course, I would. Same as if someone offered to, you know, take me down to go and see the Titanic. Of course I would go. Admittedly, I wouldn't go in a toy submarine built by someone who has absolutely no guarantee of trust, you know. If it was one of the actual proper teams that do go down to the Titanic, like Robert Ballard's team or someone, then yeah, fine. I wouldn't go with a fucking half-assed tourist. I mean, I know this is old news. Going back to that Titanic incident, it's horrible and a tragedy, and I think the fact that so many people made jokes out of it, I think the fact that people made humor from that situation, utterly disgusting. Regardless of whether the people that were killed were rich or not, it's a horrible tragedy, a horrible thing to have happen. But that being said, I've been interested in Titanic for many years, and that doesn't just stop at when Titanic disappears from the surface of the ocean in the morning of April 15th. It's also about everything that happens after. And the sort of technology that goes into the construction of submarines that can dive to a depth of 12,000, 13,000 feet to get down to the Titanic is incredible. These submarines are some of the most amazing pieces of engineering. And if you look at one of these machines, like Alvin or one of the French Mir submersibles, and then you look at OceanGate submarine, I do have to question in my mind, if I knew anything about submersibles and I looked at OceanGate submarine and I looked at, say, Alvin or a Mir submarine, there is no way on earth that I would get in the OceanGate submarine. It doesn't even look remotely safe. Just never, ever. What is your favourite Thomas the Tank Engine episode? Oh, Nicholas, that's a very hard question. Because do you remember, Thomas the Tank Engine was a long time ago for me. When I was a kid, I think it was probably Flying Kipper. And to this day, I still think Henry's Flying Kipper music theme is actually one of the best themes in Thomas the Tank Engine. I think it's one of the greatest musical tracks of my childhood. But I really liked the episode Flying Kipper. So that was probably my favourite episode when I was a kid. God damn it! Of course, you made a joke about the Titanic submarine. I didn't say much about it at the time. But I mean, just look at the thing. It looked so cheap. It really did not look like the sort of thing that you would want to go down to the bottom of the ocean in. Okay, good. Shall we let's take a brief break from questions for a moment. Ichthyosaur exhibit. What sort of decoration shall we do for the bottom of the Ichthyosaur exhibit? Someone give me an idea. And then we'll go and grab some Ichthyosaurs in a minute. A turtle rock, iron bottom. What do you mean by iron bottom bay? I'm just going to go with sunken boats. There we go. We'll go with sunken boats on a coral reef. So let's place the boats first. Let's have some, because you've all been asking me a lot of very interesting questions. Let's have some that are a bit more, I want to say personal, but not too personal. But, you know, some questions about me as an individual. What sort of things would you like to know about my life, past, history? Obviously, don't make them overly personal, but, you know, I'm happy to answer some things. So, what sort of things would you like to know about my life, my day-to-day, that sort of thing? Fletcher got pets. We don't have pets at the moment because we're not allowed to by our landlord, but when I was a kid, the family used to have cats. I had many cats growing up. We started with we started with a black and white cat, Thomas. He was my cat. And then we got a really fluffy black one called Jerry. And then we got Spike. And then we had Old Tom, because he was a very old cat. He lived to 27, I think. Did Old Tom. And then, sort of as a kid, I also had African land snails as not really pets, but as animals that I looked after. I love African land snails. I think they're very interesting animals. And the family also had a dog when I was growing up as well, who I miss terribly. He died many years ago now, but I do miss my doggo. Quite a bit. What got me into reading history? Well, obviously, dinosaurs was one of my first sort of interests as a kid, and so you could argue that's kind of history in a way, but it was my interest in Titanic that really got me into history, and then from Titanic it was man-made disasters like the Hindenburg disaster and natural disasters like Vesuvius and and things like that. And then from there, you're looking at things like my interest in tanks and World War II and warfare from there. So it kind of all started with dinosaurs, and that then kind of went to Titanic because, you know, when Titanic, the film, was coming out in 1998, I think. Was it 98, 99? I was, you know, fairly young, 7, 8 years old, and you know, even at that young age, the hype was palpable. Like, it was one of the it was kind of the film that everyone was talking about. A bit like sort of the Marvel movies were for your, you know, younger generations now, and that obviously led to the inevitable curiosity of what is this, and from that it was, oh, this is a story about this ship that sank, and then from there I was hooked. So yeah, that's where it all began. Titanic and dinosaurs.
I do not. It's fine.
And then obviously learning to teach it at an educational level.
I am constantly.
What is your favorite reptile? Modern day reptile? Probably bearded dragons or smaller sort of lizard species like that. I just think they're so chill. A lot of snakes are as well. I think snakes are wonderfully interesting animals. Although I wouldn't have a snake because I'm a bit squeamish about feeding them, but I think snakes are wonderfully interesting animals. What's your political stance? Oof. I know, I'm happy to answer that, Goofy, because I can see there's another question below, which is also going to lead to a rant. Okay, so you have to remember that in Britain, we do not have two political parties, Republican and Democrats. We have 3 main political parties and a lot of other parties besides. And I would also say that in Britain, I'm just going to go and get some ichthyosaur skins. I would also say that in Britain, the sort of, whether you're a conservative or you're not a conservative, the difference between the parties is not as black and white as it is in America. I wouldn't classify myself as a conservative in any way. I am more of a socialist, I suppose. You know, I support the NHS. I support, you know, the state being an integral part of everybody's life. I think the state needs to do more to help people who need that help. And I think a lot of conservative policies are quite bad in the long run. But I do also think that there are some problems with socialist policies. If anything, my political stance is I think that we should be governed by a technocracy, which is where the people in power are those that are experts in their field. So your minister for agriculture would be a farmer. Your minister for healthcare would be a doctor. Your minister for science and technology would be a scientist. You have the experts in their fields in the positions of power because they're the ones that know what they're doing. And it seems to make sense to me to do that. You're scared of snails, Joshua. Snails are fine. Snails are just slugs with shells. Let's go get those ichthyosaur skins. What was your reaction to Brexit? Before or after the vote, Barger? Because they're two very different reactions. Before and after. Okay, before. I thought David Cameron even coming up with this Brexit vote prior, I thought it was a terrible idea because it was inevitably never going to achieve anything. Brexit is, in my opinion, a bit like getting Star Wars and Star Trek fans in a room and expecting them to be friends with each other by the end of it. It doesn't matter which way the Brexit vote went, no one was going to be happy with the outcome. So I think David Cameron did a really stupid thing doing the Brexit vote in the first place. After the vote, I was horrified, and I still am horrified, because the Brexit vote was passed through basically on the grounds of lies being told to people by Boris Johnson and Nick Farage and their ilk. It passed through because the old generations thought it was 1955 again and didn't understand that Great Britain was no longer a world power. And the Brexit vote passed because of racists. And I'm sorry, I stand by this. I have not encountered a Brexit voter who voted for Brexit. I've never encountered one who, when asked why they voted for Brexit, did not immediately say immigration. And in my opinion, that's really dodgy. If that's the only reason you voted, then you're either a racist or you are living in the delusion that you're not a racist. Because immigration is not the problem with Great Britain. It just isn't. So yeah, I was absolutely horrified by Brexit, and I still am, and I'm horrified by the way that still to this day, people are trying to claim that Brexit is a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing. Absolutely horrific thing. Anyway, what is your favorite crocodilian? I love caimans, Barger. I think caimans are really bizarre looking crocodilians, and they also seem to be like the most relaxed out of any of the crocodilians that I've seen in like documentaries, and there's been caimans in zoos I've been to as well. They always seem to be quite chill. Fletcher, who do you think was the best US president? I don't know enough presidents to really answer that question, honestly. What is your stance on the US in the modern in its modern state? Ooh, that's a big topic again, Burger. I think the USA is demonstrative of a country that is uncertain what it is anymore. America grew up in this idea that it was the best country in the world because after World War II, it was. And after World War II, America had only the Soviet Union to base itself against. And I think if you're comparing yourself to the Soviet Union, America is probably always going to come out on top. But I think that day has passed. China has overtaken the USA in terms of production. A lot of the southern hemisphere states are getting to the point where they're going to overtake northern hemisphere states in terms of production. And I think America is going through now what Britain went through just after World War II. That perception that we're not the best, we're not the greatest anymore, we're not the wealthiest anymore. And I think America in itself is also going through that process in a very truncated, very rapid way. Because arguably it sort of started with George Bush and then Obama and then Trump. And now I can't even I dread to think what is going to happen after the next American election. In a way, I almost kind of feel sorry for people living in America because they're going through what people in Britain went through in the 1940s and the 1950s, and it was a horrible. It was quite a low time in for the UK, and I think America is going to have something similar. Probably not to the same extent because times have moved on. But I think it's going to be a rough decade or two, I think. I hope it's not, because obviously, Nerd Guy lives there, Fallout lives there. There are people I care about in America. But just strictly from an impassionate historical perspective, I can see a lot of similarities between America now and Britain post World War II. But that was an interesting question, Burger. What would your reaction be if America randomly turned communist? I'd probably laugh. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Nerd Guy there. There's a lot of corruption in modern politics, which really doesn't help. Fletcher, what do you think the chances of a second American Civil War happening is? Ugh. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, watching the Trump supporters force their way into the Capitol building was really quite shocking for me. If you go to the Houses of Parliament in the UK, you will see that you cannot actually go up to the Houses of Parliament. One side of the Houses of Parliament, you've got the River Thames, so that stops you getting close to it. And the other three sides of the Houses of Parliament are surrounded by massive metal blocks, anti-ramming blocks, security checkpoints, and the only permanently armed police officers you will see in Great Britain are at the Houses of Parliament. And they are very, very strict. Like, I remember waiting around for some of my university buddies because we were doing a university field trip to the House of Parliament, and I'd been waiting there for about 15 minutes, and I had an armed police officer come over to me and ask me what I was doing because he was obviously a bit suspicious. He was all right once I showed him my university pass and was like, I'm waiting for a university field trip, and all he said to me was like, do you mind waiting away from here over there? And I was fine. I was happy to do so. But I think if a situation where rioters tried to break into the House of Parliament, like that had happened that day in America, I think the police officers here would have fired. And it surprises me that in a country which is so free with gun control, so free with gun ownership, that actually those rioters were able to make their way into a massive government building. Like, how does that happen? Absolutely incredible thing to watch happening on the news. Right, let's get these ichthyosaurs made, shall we? So yeah, Barger, I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, I don't think it's it's a good thing to have happen, and I hope it never happens. But I wouldn't be surprised if it did. What are the chances of World War III? Josh, what's with the depressing... I'm not going to answer that. Let's have some non-depressing questions, please. People ask things that are not so terribly depressing. Let's have some more cheerful questions, or you know, things about my childhood or something. I don't know. Why is this chat filled with scary questions? I mean, I could say, Joshua, that perhaps it's because I'm willing to answer them. A lot of streamers I've seen don't really talk about this sort of stuff. Probably because they're too scared about being demonetized. But in my opinion, I'm a teacher. If someone asks me a question, I'm gonna do my best to give them an answer that's to the best of my ability, because that's what I'm trained to do. What's my favorite Star Trek episode? Oh, Nerd Guy, why would you do that? You know that we... So, for those of you who don't know, me and Nerd Guy are actually going to be starting up a new YouTube channel in the new year, looking specifically just at Star Trek. And him asking me that question is so bloody annoying. My favorite of all time, Nerd Guy, it's going to have to be bloody the Star Trek Voyager one with Queen Arachnia. It's just so much fun. Fletcher, what would your personal reaction be if the governments and borders of the world shifted back to the year 1934? Oh, I don't even know, because they would be very fucked up, that's for sure, Barger. I'm sorry, Nerd Guy. Could you give a constructive breakdown on how communism affected the trout population? Not a clue, Not a clue, Goofy. Not a clue. Let's get these ichthyosaurs in the tank. You know, I am surprised. You know, I gave people free rein to ask me questions on anything they might want to know about me, and so far everyone has been asking me to answer history stuff. Like, do people not want to know anything about me as a person? You know, not curious to know my deepest, darkest secrets, even if I have deepest, darkest secrets, you know. Fletcher, what do you think a world where the US collapses instead of the USSR in 1991? Ooh. So I don't know, but actually you do remind me of a YouTube channel I quite like watching, and if you have any interest in history or that sort of thing at all, it's called Alternate History Hub. And he's answered a lot of questions like that, like what would have happened if Germany won the Second World War, and what would have happened if no, the Roman Empire still existed, that sort of thing. He's gone through a lot of these in quite a lot more detail than I ever could. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, I would suggest going and watching his videos. Alternate History Hub. If you search it on YouTube, it should come up. I mean, I hope he's still around. I haven't seen him post in a long time. What dinosaur would be a good replacement for the T-Rex in Jurassic Park if they had a reboot? Again, probably Giga.
Splinter.
I think Giga Notosaurus is a really good dinosaur you could use. It's a shame Dominion kind of ruined it. What's your favorite part of history to teach? Ah, that's an interesting question. I mean, during teacher training, I had to teach quite a range, including the Holocaust. In fact, I was the only one in the history training team that had to teach the Holocaust while they were on training. Flipping just my luck. Because it's one of those subjects you just don't want to get when you're learning how to teach. Learning how to teach people is difficult enough without getting a topic like the Holocaust. Out of all of the history I've taught so far, I think the favorite area of history I taught was ooh. Probably some early British history about William the Conqueror's invasion and the Doomsday Book and that sort of thing. Not primarily because I find that history interesting, but the children were really engaged with what we were learning about. And that always makes teaching easier. Teaching is really difficult when the kids have absolutely no interest. I mean, kids like to take the fun out of like to take the piss out of teachers a lot. I can assure you, from the position of a teacher, there are elements of things we have to teach you as kids. We hate ourselves. So much we hate. But we do our best. So yeah, it's always nice when the kids are really interested. I mean, the castles lesson was great fun too, because we studied the castles of Skyrim, and we got them to look at the sort of the real world castles that they were based off of, and to sort of look at their strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, Whiterun Castle, terrible design. So yeah, that was also a pretty good lesson, I think. Who would win in a fight, the Jurassic Park T-Rex or the Paleo-accurate T-Rex? Jurassic Park quite easily. Fletcher, what would a world where the Crusades continued into... Okay, no more history questions. I'm going to make it... In the last 20 minutes of this Q&A, no more history questions. I'm only going to answer questions about me as a person. Okay? So... only questions about me as an individual. Because otherwise, I'm going to be sat here being a teacher all night. Favorite species of caiman? Oh, I don't know enough about caimans to kind of give you a species. I just know I think caimans and gharials I think are really quite interesting and chill animals. I also think they look really quite funny. You're a good teacher. Well, thank you, Goofy. I mean, I do my best. It is one of the hardest... The year of teacher training that I did is genuinely one of the most difficult years of my entire life so far. And anyone going into a career in teaching is either mad or stupid. It can be very, very rewarding, but it's overwhelmingly one of the hardest things in the world. What's the most unsettling dinosaur? Okay, well, I wouldn't say it's unsettling, but I think the truth about Tyrannosaurus's vision, the fact that its vision is as good as a peregrine falcon or a bald eagle's, if not more accurate, is an incredibly unsettling thing to think about. Because that means that T-Rex can see you and know where you are before you even have any comprehension that it does see you. And it will be able to pick you out probably no matter how well you hide. So it's not really unsettling, but it certainly gives me pause for thought that if a T-Rex was after you, my bet is on the T-Rex. And the idea that a group of children could have survived on Isla Nublar for that long a period of time with all these carnivores after them, I think is very unrealistic. Cam Cretaceous. Hey, I said no more historical questions and they had to be about personal things. Don't be cheeky and try to get other people to answer stuff. I know Turbo Soul offline. Me and him talk on Discord a lot. So don't be cheeky. I think that looks alright. A couple of little guns, and then all of our ichthyosaurs are in here. I went with two skins, the a sort of orange and purple, and the tiger stripe sort of black and yeah, tiger stripe sort of grey and black. I think those work. And again, I think one lagoon piece with 8 ichthyosaurs, maybe 6. But I think I think it's not too cramped in terms of the numbers in here, so I think it works. What are your thoughts on Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park novels, and would you want to see an adaptation of them in live action or animated? Again, it's a kind of a bit like that anime question from earlier. I think I'd be interested to see an animated interpretation. I don't think it would be as good as a live action, but I would definitely be up for watching it. Okay, so that's going to be the statue park, and we have the campsite will come down here. I'm actually going to line this with trees because I want it to kind of look like a campsite, for want of a better term. Picking these these trees specifically for good reason. These fast-growing sort of trees, conifer trees, all over, would be used for this sort of thing. Because they are so fast-growing, so you'd get a decent canopy quite fast. I'm happy with that, more or less. What war, in your opinion, started because of the most goofy reason possible? That sounds like a history question, Goofy. I'm not going to answer it. Nice try. Asking for your opinion, though. That's not personal. Personal is like about something about me, like about my life, or about my past, or my present. Something that's very personal to me. Just not too personal, yeah? Fletcher, if you became Prime Minister of the UK, what would you do? Okay, that's an interesting one. Okay, so say I became Prime Minister tomorrow. A favourite vacation I've ever taken? Probably my trip to the Isle of Wight some years ago. It was very fun going over the crossing between the Isle of Wight and the British mainland on a hovercraft. Very good fun. So if I became Prime Minister of the UK tomorrow, what would you do? I'll tell you the very first thing I would do. I would stop this preposterous position that the UK government has that what Israel is doing to Gaza is perfectly acceptable, and I would immediately come out in favour of a ceasefire. Then I would get rid of all of this horrific rhetoric about asylum seekers that the Conservative government has put in place. And I would immediately begin proceedings to rejoin the EU. That would be the first three things I would do in that order. What are your thoughts on the new Jurassic Park game? What, this survival thing? I'm actually going to also save here because I want to show you guys the park I am building off of stream. I'm going to load in it from the main menu. My thoughts on Jurassic Park Survival, it's difficult to have any thoughts about it because all we saw was a pre-rendered trailer. And pre-rendered trailers tell you bugger all about a game's quality or what a game is even about. If the game takes a lot of inspiration from Alien Isolation, then it could potentially be very good. But at this point in time, we're going to have to wait and find out more. But, you know, if they do it good and they do it like Alien Isolation, it should be quite a fun game. And I'm going to enjoy screaming all over YouTube for it. How did you become to like dinosaurs? The first movie I ever saw in a cinema, Nicholas, was Jurassic Park: The Lost World. There you go. What's your goal for this YouTube channel? That's an interesting one. Now that we hit 2,000 subscribers this year, and this year has been the most successful year for the channel we've ever had. I suppose my goal is to see how far we can go. I've never really seen the YouTube channel as a means to an end. You know, I don't really see the YouTube as a career, as a job. It's a hobby I enjoy doing that, you know, if people donate, earns money occasionally. And I don't think I will ever see YouTube as a career. Even if I had, like, Evo has just hit 200,000 subscribers. Even if I hit that number, if Triclaw hits that number, I don't think I'll still see YouTube as a career. It's a hobby. That's my view. So my goal for Triclaw is to see if we can maybe hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of next year. I mean, that would be amazing. I don't think it's doable based off this year, but who knows? We'll see. Oh, Barger, I would never want that job. Anyway, so I think I'm going to end the Q&A there, but this is the park I wanted to show you guys just before we end the stream, because this is the park I have been building off-stream while recovering from my root canal, making as much use of mods as I can. That's the aim of this particular park. And it's also to build a park on Nublar 93, because I've never actually built a park on Nublar 93. So you can see, you know, we have quite a grand entrance area for the helicopters. We have a lot of modded structures in general here, such as the use of the glass walls, ruins, these bridges over various enclosures. This Ceratosaurus one I'm not 100% happy with, but it's okay. I think my favorite enclosure like that is this one over here, which is the Megalania enclosure, which I think is really nice. And a lot of modded animal species in this particular park. So I've already mentioned Megalania is here. We also have in here with the Lioplurodon, we have Tencanthus, which is a type of prehistoric Devonian era shark, which is part of a mod pack that I'm going to do a mod spotlight video on next week. These guys, Phasalasuchus, they turned out bigger than I was expecting. I thought these low concrete walls were going to be enough, and then I realized that at this end of the paddock they could actually probably just kind of like hop their front legs onto the top and lean over. So I'm like, oh, they're a bit bigger than I thought. So I've had to put some fencing in at this end. But I really love these guys, these Postosuchus relatives, essentially. The Brachiosaurus enclosure as well. Really love the Jurassic Park 3 skin options. I don't think I'm going to use any other Brachiosaurus other than the JP3 model now that we've got those colours for it. Because these are just so much better than the bog standard Brachiosaurus colorations. Obviously you can't get guests. Guests won't cross these bridges. But you can cross them in, you know, camera mode and stuff, so... this is actually a hotel, this particular building. I thought you know, there was a gap basically here, and I was curious what to put in it, and I thought, hotel will go in there, pretty much okay. Overlooking the Ceratosaurus enclosure. What else do we have around here? Obviously, this is just a big tree of life, which allows access to the lagoon area of the park. We have inside here we've got pteranodons and Geosternbergia. obviously the JP3 model, but with different colours. I think I went with red and black and blue and black, these bright blue ones. And the Geostone version have this yellow and sunset sort of colour. And then in here we have a mixed Triassic Period lagoon with Nothosaurs and a couple of Shonisaurus. Because I think they combine quite well. Oh, I hate the camera in the lagoons. Oh yeah, and obviously you've got the waterfalls. These guys, a combination of a couple of other mods. And I think they work quite well at... because this sort of narrow strip of land that connects the two sides of Nublar 93, there isn't that much you can do with it. You're either going to use it for a monorail or a tour track, or you're just going to leave it for environmental. So I think putting waterfalls down here has worked really well. And I think it gives a nice backdrop to that Nothosaurus lagoon. Oh, and we also have the Jurassic Park. I think this is from Trespasser, I think. Just a large building, which I see as maybe like a sort of a visitor center of some description down here. Liplorodon path art, because naturally. Now, because we do have Liplorodons in here as well. Ah, showing off your neck there. I think in here we have some Struthiomimus and Janbia, which is like a pygmy hadrosaur, a very tiny hadrosaur, which works for that particular enclosure. And like I say, at the moment I'm building up here at the present time. This is what I was doing before stream. We have the Megalania enclosure here. We have a sort of... if I wait here for a little bit... Actually, let's go into camera view. And stand on this bridge here. We've got a Triceratops sort of geothermal spring sort of area. I think suits the Triceratops quite nicely. And the Triceratops themselves, where are the males? He's in... There you go. The males have a different colour pattern thanks to Glitch's FGM mod. They show up so much nicer now. Oh, hey you two. You're not being very nice. Males and females fighting. And yeah, we've got some gardens here, sort of a statue park through these gardens. With another big tree of life there. And here we have two species of Carnotaurus. We've got the standard species of Carnotaurus, and then there's a slightly smaller, more paleo-accurate depiction, which I've kind of put in here as like juvenile Carnos for the adults. So I'm very happy with how this turned out. Yeah, at the moment I was working on this area, these Jurassic Park Innovation Centres. And over on that side of the river, we're going to have Stegosaurus eventually, when I get around to it. So, how do I do a fog? That's a mod that actually gives you like a fog. If I come out and show. So the mod pack, I think it's the same one that brings in the waterfalls. It gives you a bunch of effects. You've got like the waterfall effects in 3 different varieties. A couple of splashes, a big one and a small one. And you got a smoke effect. Here you go. But yeah, all mods. But I wish we had effects that we could actually place down. Because we could make areas of the park look so much better like that. You okay?
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, next week I'm going to do a bit of a mod spotlight anyway, so I might include that mod in there. And I actually love the way this park looks at night. If I turn this to nighttime, and I don't think enough people do this, they don't check out how their parks look in the dark. So obviously the visitor center is all naturally lit. All of these flagpoles are lit with green for to make it easier for people to walk around. The sails lit in blue there and there. Fountains lit in a sort of a UV blue, green for some lighting around some of the dinosaur statues. Some nice orange lighting for the amenities. Blue for every fountain, pretty much, either a light blue or a dark blue. I really love how these look, though, around the windows. These UV sort of blacklight blue for the viewing windows. I think that looks really cool. And actually, if I find the ones... Was it the Phasaloceuchus exhibit? Yeah. So because I've sort of enclosed the whole area, it's like almost like a blacklight sort of room, as it were. I would want this roofed if I could do it, but it would take too many parts to sort of roof it off. But I think that looks really cool. I have the obviously green lighting around a lot of the vegetation. Fountains in the aviaries backlit. I don't think I've got too much lighting in the lagoons. No, the lagoons are pretty relatively dark, apart from the green lighting around the Lypleurodon exhibit and the coral reefs. And then up here, using the aquarium lighting to sort of denote where the fence line is around this area of rocks. And some more of that lovely black light around the viewing wall. And then through these garden areas, we've got the lighting is all the same sort of black light. And then we just got every sort of animal is lit up. Spinosaurus over here in a nice red. The Allosaur and Stegosaur having a fight in a nice red as well. And then through here we've got the Suco in a red. Geostembergia in an orange, nice Brachy in the green. And I think down here we have some of these Iguanodons in green and Therizino in the green. So yeah, I think this is all turning out really, really good so far, and I think it's I'm really happy with how this park has turned out. So I'm looking forward. This park I'm never going to build on stream. When it's done, I'm basically going to do a big long tour around the whole park. So I mean, we've got oh, and I forgot this enclosure over here. Let me turn it back to daytime. This is another mod species. The why are you all in the... I'm just going to grab one so people can see him. The Yamanosaurus, which is like a similar in size to a Marga or Niger, but with a sort of armored studly back. And they have some very nice skins, so they're very cute. So yeah, this is sort of my park built without limitations. So far, no problems in terms of piece count. I'm hoping that stays the case, because we've got... I mean, we've not got too much left to build. This area over here is going to be a river tour. This area in here is going to be a... ignore the... I've got some some Lahavanators that need a paddock building, because I haven't found them a paddock yet. But this is going to be like a hotel area in here. And we're going to have a river cruise over here. And I think here somewhere, it's going to be a T-Rex or Spinosaurus exhibit. I just don't know where yet. So yeah, a lot of work still to do. But anyway, it is now 5 minutes past 11, so I am going to leave it here for this evening. Thank you everyone for tuning in for this Q&A and asking me so many interesting, slightly depressing questions. Looking at you, Goofy Goof. But yeah, thank you everyone for making this quite an active stream while I was building the ichthyosaur area on the other Isla Sodor. Like I say, next week we've got a couple of videos coming, a couple of a mod spotlight video that's going to look at a couple of mods. Now that my tooth is sorted out, I can actually do the War Thunder video I've been putting off for a few weeks. Every time I want to do the War Thunder video, something happens. And obviously I will see if Dane can do a Paleo Pines stream at some point next week as well. We will see. And obviously next Sunday will be the usual probably Jurassic World stream, if not maybe something else. We will see. But yeah, everyone have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Have a good week, and I will see you next time. Until then, stay safe and good night.